Hey YouTube, welcome back to Car Journey. I'm Tom, and we're here to talk about 2025 and what's coming up in 2026. So 2025 was a great year. 2 track records, lots of success overall, some painful parts and some lessons learned. And so I just wanted to make maybe a 10-minute video to talk about what happened and what's hopefully going to happen. So 25 started great. We were in the Supra, chasing the fastest lap times at Suica Circuit, coming off a really strong 24 year, some tweaks to the car, swapped out the Pure 800 for Pure 650, had better drivability, and the hope was that drivability would transfer over to autocross, and it didn't. While the power delivery was great, in the end, the problem was the track springs that we were running in terms of rate, way too much for a medium grip parking lot that had been resealed, especially in cooler temps. So probably would have had to drop hundreds of pounds out of both ends of the car, which would have really compromised how well the aero was working on track, because we finally got the aero dialed in and the splitter angles right and everything, just that car was good. So the plus of it is we got the car into the 123.4, which is flying at Sandia. That's just not going to be easy for a lot of people to get there. Getting sub 125 at all has been proven to be really hard, and getting all the way down to a mid 123, it's going to be a small club for a while at least. Cars march on, tech marches on. Somebody with a big budget will come along and probably beat that, but I did it first and it felt good and the car was great. The problem got to be is the lack of challenge. So starting to push harder and harder to get, to get in the 22s and the kind of the money it would take to kind of find more, because you need more power, you need more everything. And I realized that I was taking risks that I didn't really want to do. And if you're going that fast, that can be a big ouch in both your bank account and your physical health. So decided to look at other alternatives. Originally was going to keep the Supra, picked up this ND Miata, and the idea with the ND Miata is it's slower, it's more competitive in a lot of classes because the power to weight can kind of be shifted around, and it's super cheap to operate by comparison. The tires at the time when I bought this were nearly half for a set. And then because it doesn't stress them out so much, you get more heat cycles per tire and certainly more tread life. So quickly made a shift, decided the problem with that being is the Miata is not the car I want to drive every day. The Supra isn't really street appropriate. And so I decided to sell a Supra while I figured I could get good money for it. Found the right buyer for it and ended up selling it. And that really committed me to getting the Miata ready. So then the Miata got a build. The plan was to go at least in 2 stages, if not 3. So the first stage was, what can a stock 2023 ND2 Club Miata that had the BBS package, BBR package, which is the BBS wheels, the Brembo brakes, and the Recaros. And with a 215 PS4S on lighter but stock spec wheels, we did a 134.9, which to me is pretty fast. That's a pretty difficult thing to do. I mean, that's no sway bar, barely in alignment. All I did was max out the adjusters in the front for camber, and then try and just use some toe plates to get it dialed in and the steering wheel fairly straight. It worked pretty good. Like I said, 34.9, not a bad time to be running on 0 mods, really. Oh, I forgot, I left out. I did do the brake pads. We did Paget RSL 29s, and we did do brake fluid. I could talk to you all day about brake fluid, but I can tell you of all the things I've tried, the Endless RF650, that is the way to go. Because not only does it have great wet temperature, but it has the best compressibility, meaning your pedal is physically more firm than, say, SRF, Castrol SRF. So I switched. I've never looked bad because the Miata could boil SRF, and it just didn't have a problem with the Endless. So that's kind of what we did. And then we decided, the plan of the car was to autocross it. So we went ahead and called my favorite guy, Brian Carwin at Carceps, and said, what would you do if, don't look at so much the money, within reason, what would you do? So we went with MCS 3-ways on the front and MCS 2-ways on the rear. His bars front and rear. Did a JDL 4-2-1 header. Did a OS Geekin / Remark header back with cat to be legal. And we also did a seat lowering rail so we could keep the top up. That didn't come into play until I think actually the 3rd event, but maybe it was the 2nd event. But I figured the top up was going to be a big deal because there's a couple sections where you're going over 80 miles an hour, and having a Miata's top down is quite a bit of drag when you start getting into those speeds and above. And of course we did 17x9. These are the FM Kotegi wheels with 245 4017 Bridgestone 71 RS. And we went out and we ran a 30.2, which is, again, really fast and huge differential in time, right? Almost 5 seconds, over 4.5 seconds of improvement. The drivability was up, but I definitely had the shock set wrong, the sway bar set wrong, and I had some rear instability, which kind of was something I'd experienced before on the Bridgestones. And so for the next event, what we ended up doing was changing out the tires. We went to some Yokohama A052s, which I found kind of work better on this car, and the trim it was in has a little bit more forgivability in terms of rear stability, but they also fire up better. As the temperatures cool down, the Bridgestones I always found needed a little bit more heat than I'm able to get on an outlap. And so we ended up doing that. Apologies for touching the mic there. And changed the front sway bar. I ended up having to go softer on the front sway bar. We were able actually to reduce the rear sway bar because of that. Take out some front rebound so we could get some grip in some of the bumpier braking sections, especially at turn 6. And we found time. We got all the way down to a 128.7, which is just flying in a car that we just dynoed. Basically the same the same ECU calibration made 143 wheel horsepower uncorrected here at mile high altitude. So not a lot of power, doing a lot of things. By comparison, the Supra was making 590 wheel torque in a package that weighed almost exactly 1,000 pounds more with 295s all the way around. So pretty good, 5 seconds slower, sure, a little over 5 seconds slower, but doing it with so much less. And it was great to drive. It was very easy to drive. You get nice rotation. You kind of just hold it on entry like a 911 and then hit the throttle when you want the rotation to stop and just power out and try and carry as much speed to the next corner. So that's the new, as far as I know, Class E record, which unfortunately is going to change because they moved the power to weight from 14-to-1 to 15-to-1, which for 26 means we're now in B class. So we can get down to a 10-to-1 power to weight ratio. Reality, after what I'm looking at the dyno, and we use corrected dynos, going to be in the 175 horsepower range, and I think with me in it, we're going to be in the 2450 range. So we are out of C class. We are in B class. And so we're going to try and be competitive in B class, underpowered, but great handling car. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to try and get a 27. I think if you can get a Miata, any Miata with, not a built motor, it's a stock motor, just, bolt-on exhaust, stock intake even. If we could run a 27.9, that would just be insanely fast in the Miata. I would, there's no question how fast that would be, regardless of power or anything else. So that's the goal for 26 in this car. Do well at Super Lap, do well at that. But also, we want to do well at SCCA Autocross. So we're going to leave it legal for AST. The one change we're going to make is we're going to add a Blackworks roll bar. And 2 reasons. 1, safety. It's going to be a lot safer to be going to the tracks we're going to go to with a proper proper roll bar to keep us safe. It's also required for a lot of organizations, since one of the things we did was start campaigning to take weight out of this car. And so you can see in here that we have taken out the stock seats, the Recaros, and installed some Sparco QRTRs. They're on the PCI mounts that are adjustable, but no sliders on either side. What the shock thing to me was, these seats with this whole mountain setup are just a hair under 26 pounds each. The Recaros, what you don't know, because I could never find published numbers, is the stock club seats, the regular club seats, are 34 pounds is what a few people have weighed them in at. And so this would have been, an 8-pound loss, let's call it. But what I didn't know is the Recaros are so much heavier. Mine were over 44 pounds each. 44 pounds. So we lost 18 pounds per seat. So 36 pound plus loss here in the car. Plus we have a lot more support. We're sitting physically lower, which I wanted. I'm only 5'8", and I wanted to be lower in the car. And so now everything is better. The sight line is under the mirror now, because that was always the problem, is the mirror was partially blocking view. On the lower seat rails, it was better. Now it's great. And so we also changed out some rotors. So we went with the 949 rotors, which are not compatible with the Brembo brakes unless you grind. So I did make a clearance grind on the inside of the Brembo for this side. But you can see, if you look carefully, there's still a racing stripe there that's from the anodize getting removed. What I haven't seen mentioned anywhere is while you may clearance the caliper, you need to clearance the pads. So these RSL 29 pads extend and make contact with that hub. So what I had to do was take a grinder and grind the backing plate of the outer RSL 29 pad to be kind of flush with the surface of the brake material itself. Well, doing that finally got rid of the problem. We're happy now. We've lost 2.5 pounds per side. Very debatable if that was worth all that effort. But I wanted to start fresh with fresh rotors for this season because we're going to go a lot of places and I didn't want to really change them mid-season. I think we can do in a whole year of all the things I want to do, which includes going to COTA, which includes going to Eagles Canyon Raceway twice, and just do it all on one set of rotors because they're new at the beginning of the season. So that's the plan. And again, we're working on dyno, working closely with Brian Carwin at Carceps, working on some calibrations. We're trying to, and it looks like we're going to hit targets of about 175 wheel horsepower corrected and 155 wheel torque. And I think in a car that's probably going to weigh about 22, let's call it 2260-ish with the roll bar, which is a net 26-pound gain. Going to be a pretty lightweight car still. Should be a nice package. Definitely going to have good ergonomics and seating position. Ooh, left that out. One downside to this arrangement, because of the width of the seat, is you are very, very, very slightly off-center to this side, to the left. You notice it tremendously sitting in the garage because you're just slightly off. And if you've ever driven a Miata, you know it's perfect. So what I learned, I was very concerned about this, but when I went to the test drive for the rotor contact, I immediately didn't notice. It immediately wasn't an issue. It didn't affect heel toe. It didn't affect anything. So I was going to fiddle with the seat a lot more. I doubt I will, maybe a little bit. They need to come out anyway to do the roll bar, so maybe that'll give them an opportunity to try and do it. But what I'm afraid is if I can fix the rear of the seat to be more inboard, what'll end up happening is I'll be perfectly straight front to rear, but I'll be shifted more outboard and it'll feel worse. Because at least now, even though I'm off center, my feet are perfectly angled to the pedals and so is my chest to the steering wheel. The issue just becomes that my butt is probably half an inch to an inch off center. And so not the end of the world, but if you're thinking about duplicating what I did, I've warned you. Also notice I did a seatbelt extender. It's the only way to make this setup work. I've got a tip from my buddy Mark saying to run this belt through the hole. I might try and figure that out later when I have the seat out. But otherwise, very happy with this setup, at least in testing on the street. So what else happened? So we picked up a C7 Grand Sport Z07 package. It was a full prep SECA Super Street Race SSR car. That class went away, but luckily all the mods on that car transfer over to a class called A Street for autocross. So the plan was 2026, run that in SECA. It has everything I need. All it needs is tires. It's got Penske 8300 two-ways. It's got the right front sway bar, 2 extra set of wheels to run what I need to in terms of the new upcoming sizes in the Bridgestone 71 RZ. So 285s in the front, 325s in the back, and that car should be very competitive both nationally and locally. The problem gets to be is $2,200 a set for tires, and we're gonna need at least 2 of them. So $4,400 just to go autocrossing for something that I'm not taking as seriously as I once did. It's a tough sell. By comparison, the Miata is $1,300 a set for tires. Not cheap. We're up $300-400 from where we were just not that long ago. But the difference is you can get more heat cycles out of the set. And of course, it's going to do a lot better on the tread wear because it's just easier on tires in general. So the tough call has to be made. Probably going to run this car for everything this coming season. Probably take a close look mid-season and maybe finish out the second half of the season in the Grand Sport for autocross just because maybe at that point I'll have the stomach for it. But asking me today, it's really a tough sell to say that is that much more fun that it's worth paying $900 a set for tires that are probably going to also get a little less life out of them for autocross. So we'll see. It's not a cheap sport. You're always paying for something. And so maybe there'll be opportunities that make sense. But got a pretty full track schedule between doing Albuquerque Super Lap, 6 of the 7 events that they're going to be in 2026. There's also, like I said, Eagle Canyon Raceway in May for the Time Trial Nationals Tour. There's also going to be a COTA event that me and my buddy Danny and Alan and a few others want to do in early October. And then there's Time Trials Nationals back again at Eagle Canyon Raceway, which if you don't know is nearby to Dallas, Texas. And so that's another event. So there's a lot of these unplanned events. And plus, if I do solo nationals, that's yet another set of tires that I got to work into managing the season. So it was looking like 4 sets of tires for the ND. That's still less than just 2 sets of the ND and a set for the Corvette. It's kind of wild how that math works. So it's looking like that's what we're going to do. I don't know. It's December. Today's December, I think, 14th. Still got to make some decisions. The tires will become available for this car and the new 71RZ in the coming weeks. And then the Corvette, they'll become available in January. So make some decisions. Other things that are worth talking about, well, other than we're obviously going to switch to the RZ, we're going to put that roll bar. I don't really want to film it out of respect for them. Is we're also going to switch to a 17 by 10 tire wheel for track use. So all the classes I'm running in with the respective groups, this is legal, a 17 by 10. We can only run 17 by 9s for SCCA Autocross and AST class, but the track and Tuner 4 and any of the Super Lap classes, they don't care. We could run the 255, but the problem with the 255 is the tread width is actually almost the same. So you don't really get any more. This is an old RS. You don't really get more track width, so you can see the fitment. You do get a little thicker sidewall, but you don't really get, surface out of it. What you do get is taller gearing. It's like a 1/4 inch OD change, but in a car, like we just said, we're making 143 wheel horsepower. I don't think we're looking for more OD. I don't think we want worse gearing for that kind of power level. So we're going to stick with the 245. It's just going to fit a lot better on a 10-inch wide wheel than a 9-inch wide wheel. And that's basically what's worth talking about there. We're going to also try and figure out to take a little more weight out of this car. I got a Melee battery mount kit for the anti-gravity batteries from FM. Comes with some bits and some hardware. This is a little over a 2-pound addition to a 5-pound. We would do the anti-gravity, I think it's ATX 20 HD. The HD weighs more than the RS, but it gives you more amp hours, so it's a little bit, probably going to be less prone to getting drained. So the battery is so much shorter than the stock battery. This replaces the positive lead off the fuse box to the terminal, so that you don't have, you're not pulling your cables tight. So yeah, we'll lose somewhere along the lines of, the stock batteries are 24 to 26 pounds, depending on which one you get. And this whole setup should be 7.5 pounds-ish with the anti-grav and this mount. This mount, I was told the reason why I wanted to get this over just kind of big zip ties or anything else is that's a hot spot in the Miata engine bay, and that this extra battery box adds a level of heat shielding that really should help the longevity of the anti-gravity battery. So taking a 2-pound hit for hopefully no scary fires, no issues. So we'll see how that works out. So yeah, we'll do that weight reduction and the weight reduction we've already did, but we'll net 26 pound up for the roll bar. And we're still learning about how low gas we can run on track. It seems like you can run as low as autocross, like almost non-existent levels of gas. Probably get as much as another 15 pounds less gas out of the car. So like I said, I think we can get in that 2260 pound range, maybe even a little less with the roll bar. That should be a pretty competitive package. And we're touching up the tune just to make sure the entire power curve is a little better than it was now that we've had time to put it on a dyno and send Brian something more useful than just street pulls. But pretty excited about the car. The only other change I'm talking about is I've been running the RSL, RSL 29 pads front and rear. I think I want a little more bite. My buddy Andy Hollis was nice enough to have a conversation with me and suggested I try the RST3 pads from Padgett on the front. They give more bite. They're not as soft as the 29s are. And so that's what he runs. He runs the RST3s in the front and the RSL 29s in the rear, and suggested I give it a try. So we'll go that route. But that should pretty much do it. Data acquisition, we're going to do some changes there. Right now I'm running a Catalyst. The Catalyst has been just super reliable. We're getting video, but I don't find it very good for long-term improvements on the track. It's great for I want to see what happened that session, especially at a new track. You can really, dial it in, quickly show it to somebody who's a local and knows the track well and give you tips. But if you're really trying to find time, I don't think that's the data solution you need. Really want to get into the AIM realm again. Did it with karting, and so it'd be kind of fun to run an AIM Solo 2 DL and get the CAN bus information, luckily on the Miata and even the Corvette. It's on the OBD2 port, makes it a lot easier, and you can just get high levels of information like brake pressure, steering angle, very granular throttle, and all the other things that you care about in terms of lap time on top of, GPS speed, location, and G-forces. The other option is we did pre-order a Race Capture Track Mark IV, which we're going to rigidly mount in this car because that has always been the best product to work with. SoloStorm has been a Race Capture unit, statically mounted, because SoloStorm's that's what they want to use. It works really well, and it's easy to not mess it up because you turn on the car, it's on, turn on your tablet, automatically pairs. It just works, gets 25 hertz, and been very happy with that kind of setup. So I'm going back to that for this car, and it'll just be left in here. The question gets to be, is it worth maybe substituting the Catalyst for the Solo 2, because kind of makes the pain go away in terms of AIM Solo is pretty expensive. It's in the 700s even with a discount new. And maybe I can get at least $600 for the Catalyst and offset some of that, but get more in-depth information for finding lap time, trying to chase those 27s at the local track. We'll see. It's early. Definitely will run SoloStorm and the Race Capture for autocross and have to make some decisions again about track data. Probably start the year using SoloStorm for track. I could use Race Chrono. Been using Race Chrono for a couple years. I like Race Chrono at the track again. It's kind of like the SoloStorm of track use. You can quickly dive into it, kind of look and figure it out. But I haven't found it the best thing in the world to compare my best ever lap to the lap I ran and really trying to figure out what I did differently, because it's just not capturing all the things. Now, in its defense, I never set it up for the CAN bus stuff. And when I have the Race Capture, then it'll easily capture that, because Race Chrono happens to work well with capture devices. And maybe that'll be the ticket. So we'll see. I've talked for a lot longer than I planned. This would be a 10-minute video. Now it's a 22-minute video, but hopefully some of this is worth it to you. The next video I plan to make is going to be the how to build a faster car. And I see a lot of content out there about different things for specific builds, but I really want to get into something that I think I'm pretty good at, which is taking a car, talking to the right people, and making it very efficiently fast within a budget, whether your budget's big or small. And I find myself giving a lot of advice, both at autocross and the track, about where people should take their current build and what would be the bang for the buck. What would I do if I was in their car? But I haven't really seen a good video on it, especially not one specifically for my local track. So I think I'm going to do that. That's going to be the next video. Got a couple months of the off season still left. The other video I'm thinking about doing, and let me know down in the comments if you think it's worth it, should I do a revised version of how to lap a Suica circuit? And the reason why I think it might be pertinent to do it again already is because we've gone ahead and resealed a good portion of the track, and that has affected a little bit of my lap. Plus I can do a little bit more focus now that I'm refreshed on driving a lower power car. My comments can be pretty good. I like the video I did, but it was a one take. I literally hit record on Windows Sound Recorder, played the video, and just went with it for 20 minutes without any editing. So I think I could do a better job if I, now that I have another crack at it, and again, some revisions based on what's changed at the track. Let me know if you think that'll be interesting, especially also let me know if you think how to efficiently build a track car, like for different budgets and price points. And then the other video I've thought about doing might be the data acquisition. I've been collecting video since 2003. Been collecting data since around 2008. Sorry, that's not true, 2007, with a performance box. And I've gone through so many iterations on so many different chassis. I have my opinions. I haven't used them all, but I can definitely talk, I think, well about very affordable solutions like Track Addict, which is a free app with all you need is an external GPS device, all the way up to something that's a lot more expensive like Catalyst or an AIM Solo, because I've used the AIM products on karting. And race chrono and different types of hardware, so I can tell you what's worth it on the video side, what's worth it on the data side within a reasonable budget. And maybe that's a video worth making, because you don't see a lot of that. There's usually like, hey, new product, compare. I think it'd be worth talking about price points and what you get and what you don't get, and what's really got an ROI in terms of, if I start doing this and I use it this way, the way it was meant at that price point, is there really tangible gains that make the hassle, the distraction, and the cost worth it? And so that might be a video we do in the future. Anyway, talked for too long. We're up to 25 minutes. Hopefully you stayed stuck around and watched a lot of this. Hopefully you found it useful. But thanks again. Thanks for watching, subscribing, commenting, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.